Welcome to Act 1, Scene 2 of Macbeth. In this scene, we're going to hear some more second-hand accounts of Macbeth. Shakespeare is playing a very interesting game. We don't meet him yet. First, we met him through the witches. Today, we're going to meet him through the sergeant's words. Now, the sergeant gives a full account of Macbeth in battle. This is important because it presents Macbeth as the tragic hero. Before we get to tragedy, we must have the hero. Now, Aristotle defined a tragic hero as having a fatal flaw, a hamartia. And our key question today is Macbeth responsible for his tragic flaw, or is it the product of a martial society? A society that is driven by warfare and celebrates the warrior. Has this created Macbeth the psychopath, or is Macbeth fully in control of his own desires and his own flaw, that hamartia that Aristotle spoke about? Let's zoom in on some language analysis. So Macbeth's sword, I hope you're impressed, smoked with bloody execution. Now, the word smoked here shows us that his blade is actually covered in hot blood. That's how it comes out of the body. But it also suggests fury, the speed of his attack. It suggests how efficient he is because it is execution that he does. He's not really fighting. Soldiers are coming upon him and they have no time to properly defend themselves because he is such a skillful warrior. He executes them. This is not hand-to-hand combat as we understand it. No, the opponent is slain almost instantly. So he is the ultimate warrior in this martial society. Next, however, we have this description of him disdaining fortune. Now this means he doesn't care about his own safety, his fortune, his fate. He's throwing all that aside and he's caught up in the moment of execution. Well, what is it about killing people that's so attractive to Macbeth? For the hero, of course, it's defending one's country. But for Macbeth, it's bloody execution. And so now, not only do we find out he's efficient at killing, he's also aiming for gore. He is attracted to blood. He has a bloodlust. Is that because of the way he's been trained as a soldier, or is it because he's psychopathic? It also gives us another hamartia. It could be his bloodlust that drives all the events of the play. Here we have him disdaining fortune, in other words, fighting regardless of his fate. And that is a theme that the witches are going to pick up on, because they're going to introduce him to his fate and he is going to fight his way towards it and then try and fight his way away from it when he finds out that he's still vulnerable when he's king. But it all starts here with his bloodlust. Next, we have to consider these famous lines that no doubt you've studied about how Macbeth unseamed MacDonald from the nave to the chaps. MacDonald is a Scottish rebel fighting for the Norwegian army. But how do you unseam somebody from the nave to the chaps? Well, if you use a long sword, as you would in battle, this would be almost impossible to do because the leverage would be too great and also your victim would fall backwards once you'd stabbed them. So actually there's only one way that Macbeth can do this. He has to be close and personal. He can't use a long blade, he must use a short one. And he's going to attack his victim here, who will also want to move back. So actually Macbeth must be holding onto his shoulder and stabbing him at really close quarters and then watching him face to face, man to man, as he slices him open up to the chaps. Now, it's a disgusting image, but it also reminds us of his bloodlust. Where will the blood be? Right here. Macbeth's going to be covered in it. It's what he wants. But there is another part to this quotation which you probably have not studied. Which ne'er shook hands nor bade farewell to him. So what's going on there? Well, He's shaken MacDonald's hands after he sliced him open. And then he said, goodbye. Look at the darkness of that humour. Look at how much he enjoys that joke for himself. Bye-bye, mate. Oh, you're dying, aren't you? Callous, cruel, indifferent. But what we can see is a man who thoroughly enjoys killing. This is going to be Macbeth's Hamartia. Yes, we will look at his ambition. Yes, we will look at the role of Lady Macbeth. And yes, we will look at the role of the supernatural. But the undercurrent through all of this is going to be his bloodlust. His tragedy is that this is what Macbeth has been bred to do. It's what's given him his rank in society of Thane. It's what allows him to be celebrated in this society. But the very thing that has made him such a hero is going to be the very thing that leads to his tragic flaw and to his downfall. Next, his bloodlust is dramatised in this amazing metaphor where the sergeant imagines that Banquo and Macbeth want to bathe in the reeking wounds, literally bathe in their enemy's blood. Now, he means it as a mark of their efficiency in killing. He's saying that's the point of the killing. It's bathing in the blood. Now, the sergeant makes this extraordinary leap to the hill on which Jesus was crucified. This was called Golgotha. It was just outside the city walls of Jerusalem. And obviously it's associated with death. The sergeant wants to associate it with Jesus. He's trying to suggest that Macbeth and Banquo are killing in a Christian sense, defending a Christian country from barbarians from Norway. He's also suggesting that Macbeth and Banquo are willing to give up their lives for their country, as Jesus gave up his life to save mankind. But he uses this word memorize. Now, memorize at the time also meant commemorate, as though he is commemorating what Jesus did. But it also means to memorize, to remember. And so Shakespeare introduces the bloodlust again. Macbeth is steeping himself in other people's blood so that this is a memory he can return to. Why do we return to our memories? Well, to enjoy them. Again, Shakespeare keeps showing us Macbeth's Hamartia is his addiction to killing and his addiction to blood. Killing without blood will not interest him, as we'll see later in the play. It has to be bloody. Now, to a Jacobean audience, obviously this primarily shows Macbeth's evil. Not yet. In this context of war, it shows his heroism. But to Shakespeare, it's also going to show a natural consequence of breeding a warlike man in a warlike society. He's going to be suggesting through this portrayal to King James and to the nobles that they should move away from conflict, because the natural consequence of conflict is that you create men of power like Macbeth. In other words, one of the political aspects of the play is a campaign for a peaceful society and one that is ruled by civil law. This is super relevant in 1605 because King James has just had the gunpowder plot, where what we would call terrorists now, a cell of Catholics, have placed gunpowder beneath the Houses of Parliament, not only to annihilate King James, but the whole of the ruling class, all the nobles. This is a country that could so easily go to war against its Catholic minority population. Shakespeare desperately wants to avoid that, as we will see in later videos. Now, to get the most out of your learning, do not forget to take some notes. If you would like somewhere to actually put them, check out my guide. It's got spaces for the notes.